More and more people are getting remarried in their 50s and their 60s. And when that happens, you don't necessarily combine finances again. So, how do you build a retirement plan together when you're keeping everything separate that you've already built on your own? Today, in this video, we're going to explain how that process works, how the team at Black Oak Asset Management helps couples work together and build a plan when they're keeping their finances separate. Welcome into Perfect Game Retirement. Glad to have you with us once again. And today's scenario, Ryan, is more of a common one. I know we have a question we're going to kind of spark this discussion with, but you're seeing this more and more where people are getting remarried later in life, and when they do, they come to the table with their own kind of financial life in order.
Yeah, it's very common, and it's whether it's obviously divorce is a common thing now, unfortunately, and you also see just people passing away. And I've had several clients that have passed away, and their spouses are still here, and they may get remarried one day. So those conversations we've had quite a bit, and again, mostly it's for unfortunate circumstances, but sometimes, the divorces obviously are unfortunate, but sometimes they may be needed to happen. But usually the death one is a tough one, kind of getting back into that. And if you get remarried, I know my dad had to do it after my mom passed away. So a lot of things to think about when you go through this, and it can be some sensitive topics of conversation, but me as the advisor sometimes is that third party mediator that can help with these conversations.
All right, very good. Remember, speakwithryan.com if you want to have these conversations with the team of Black Oak Asset Management. That's the best way to get on the calendar, speakwithryan.com. Now, this is a pretty common scenario, but we are doing this video because of a question that came in. So we want to pose that question first, Ryan, then we'll break it down. So here it is. I'm about to get married. We're both in our 50s, and it will be my second marriage and her third. I'd like to keep all of our assets separate so that we have our own financial lives and don't have to fight about money. But how do we plan for retirement if we don't really know what our total numbers look like? So let's kind of break this down, Ryan. And I think you kind of have to start right with just defining those ground rules at the beginning.
Yeah, and if I'm stereotyping here, but if it's a second or third marriage, like the question says, and they even said they're in their 50s, usually they're going to be hopefully more mature people as far as their age goes. And these conversations hopefully can be easier to be had, especially, and sometimes we hear third marriages, we're like, oh man, but sometimes it happens. Like, again, I'll use my dad as an example. So married to my mom for decades, and then she passes away, and my dad did get remarried, and it didn't work out. So that was a very short-lived thing. So then if he gets, if he has another relationship, he's in the third marriage as well. So these things can happen. Life can happen. It just doesn't mean you're bad at marriage or anything. It's just life happens sometimes. So hopefully having these open conversations and really laying the groundwork, and hopefully people aren't having their feelings hurt. Like, hey, this is why I'm doing these things, because yes, I love you, but I need to take care of my kids from my first marriage, or whatever that looks like. So just having open lines of discussion is an absolute must, or this may be a bad situation if you don't.
All right. So you obviously have those discussions about why you're doing it, what your goals are. But then from there, you kind of have to talk about, look, even if you want to keep things separate, you have to have that shared vision, right? You have to understand kind of what your goals are and be on the same page about, hey, when do I want to retire? What am I going to do in terms of expenses? Who's covering what? There has to be a shared vision, even if you do keep everything separate.
Yeah, I agree with that. If it's first marriages, I really encourage people to combine everything, but I get it. Things can get messy on a second and third marriage from a financial standpoint, especially when you have kids from previous marriages. So it can get complex. It really, really can. So keeping things separate, I'm okay with that. But yes, you have to have a shared plan, because hopefully you're getting into this relationship anticipating and thinking it's going to last, the rest of your lives. So you do want that kind of shared plan, because if you don't, then you're just working against one another. And that's, again, so it's okay to have different accounts, but the plan, the vision, like you said, it needs to be shared and gone over together. And we want feedback and input from both sides. So when we create a financial plan, again, it's okay to have everything separate from an account setup, but then having a plan of what this looks like and when do we want to retire together, and then what do we want to do in retirement together. So that plan's got to be shared, but accounts can be separate.
Yeah, so you want to talk about those different goals that you have so that you can share those. But I think transparency is also important, right? I mean, how much do you have to share, even if you do want to keep it separate? Do you need to disclose everything?
I mean, the clearer the picture, the better. Not that
Okay.
you have to go through like, people's bank account statements, but just having a general idea of how much is in there. Try to be proportionate because one incomes could be higher than the other, savings could be higher than the other. So if you want that shared plan and shared vision, you want to be on the same page. Maybe those things are done proportionally. So there could be, because if divorces happen, sometimes that's a big financial hit. Sometimes, depending on what the divorce decree stated. If it's a second marriage, but the first spouse like passed away, sometimes there's not as much of a financial burden, if you will, because assets just transfer over to the spouse. Maybe there was a life insurance policy that was an infusion of money upon that death. So it can be very, very different depending on the previous situation or the previous marriage. So I think it needs to be more transparent. Again, not that you have to provide every transaction that you do on a daily basis, but having an idea of how much is in each account, I think is an absolute must. Especially when we do this plan, because when we link accounts up to our financial planning software, they're going to know how much is in these balances, and just being honest and open about what's in checking and savings is only going to help.
And this is something probably you need to kind of update. As I guess you're having these meetings. If they're working with you, Ryan, they're having these meetings together, hopefully, and you might, I guess, share the full picture before marriage and when you get married, but probably an ongoing thing, right? Okay, kind of here's where we stand, this year, next year, and so forth.
Yeah, it's constantly has to be updated. Again, that's just going to increase your successes of this marriage. The second in this question, second marriage, and then even third marriage is just going to increase the chances of this marriage lasting, hopefully for the duration of their lives, and planning around that. And again, if it means having to do, like a prenup, a prenup kind of gets a bad connotation, meaning, oh, we're getting a prenup because we're signing up for this to be our third and fourth marriages next. No, that's not necessarily the case. Like a prenup just really specifies people, like kids in previous marriages, how they get taken care of. So, and that's usually what happens. So a prenup really takes care of their spouse. If one were to pass away in this question, in this example that we're talking about, it still takes care of that person, that spouse that they leave behind. But then it also takes care of their kids from previous, if that's what you want to do, take care of your kids from previous marriages. So that's what a prenup really does. It just lays everything out ahead of time. And again, the more clearer and more mature these conversations are had ahead of time, these prenups are not seen as a bad word. Like, oh, what are you saying? Our marriage isn't going to work out. That's not it at all. Prenup is a little bit deeper than just that.
And then estate planning. Let's talk about that for a second, because I know this is pretty crucial at this point too, when you're talking about second or third marriages, because you have different family members, you have different kind of goals in mind, and you have to absolutely make sure your goals are aligned with this new life that you're living, right?
Yeah, when it comes to estate planning, same thing. There's got to be open and honest discussions. You really need to have a will. You need to preferably have a trust that really spells this stuff out. I mentioned a prenup a minute ago, but also having, trusts that are built in. And everyone's situation is going to be different. I am not an estate planning attorney, but I know the value of trusts, whether those are revocable or irrevocable. Both have pros and cons to each. So, for the most part, usually revocable trusts will do what it needs. But again, everybody's situation is different. Their asset totals are different. So those trusts really need to be specified. So a lot of times, we do help our clients. We give them access to an estate planning tool where they can do a revocable trust, a financial power of attorney, a living will, medical directive, all those things. But if it really gets into blended families, I really do encourage people to sit down with an attorney and really lay this out. It's going to cost some money. It's okay, but it's going to save everybody else a lot of money in the long run. So I would advise people to really sit down with an estate planning attorney and make sure this stuff is right. I've been in those meetings, and sometimes my clients will say, "Hey, can you come with us to the estate planning meeting?" Yep, absolutely, no problem. So we're glad to do that and help people out in that regard. But again, blended families, blended marriages, we need to probably sit down with an attorney.
All right. Last thing I want to talk about too here is just the emotional side of this and the role that you play in that, Ryan, because I know a lot of this is about emotional security as much as it is financial security when you get to this point. So how do you help kind of provide that, maybe the third party that can be neutral and kind of help guide everyone through this process?
Yeah, I mean, that's probably arguably the biggest part of my job. And this, whether it's people's first marriage or second or third or whatever, I mean, we that's kind of our job, is to be the emotional, to take some of that emotional weight off of this, because there's a lot of psychological things going on when it comes to money and families, because you could have been brought up completely different than your spouse and how you handle money and deal with money. So that's where we come into play. Yes, especially on these second and third marriages, we are, again, we're like the mediator in between. So when we hear kind of both sides, I feel like we're really good at that, listening to both sides and kind of finding a common ground. But I can remember vividly one meeting I had a great conversation with the husband. The wife could not be on the phone call, but she comes to the meeting. And I was like, okay, these are going to be great clients. Had a great conversation. And I'm talking, it was a 180 when we got into the meeting together. The way he talked to her, it was, and I've never stopped a meeting early. And it just kept on and on. And she would say something, he would just come over the top. And I'm like, oh my goodness, like, I can't help this couple because this guy does not want help at all. He's just so. Anyway, it was crazy. I could not be the mediator in that one. It just, and I felt bad for her because she had no voice in it. So that's where it's got to be a fit both ways. It's got to be a fit for us, and it's got to be a fit for the couple that are sitting across the table from us as well. So, but yeah, usually we're that mediator, and we can be the objective viewpoint and not the subjective viewpoint in a relationship like this.
All right. Very good. Well, good stories, good insight. If you are approaching this life change and exciting, this is an exciting time, and congratulations for this, but you want to plan ahead and make sure that you are on the same page, even if finances are separate, and having a good financial advisor can help you with that. Ryan is a certified financial planner. Black Oak Asset Management has a team that can assist you with this and help build a plan and help you make sure that you reach the future with the goals that you have in mind, and give you the best chance to do that. So again, hopefully this helps you out a little bit. If it did, please subscribe to the video and the channel. We appreciate that. And we'll talk again soon, Ryan. Thanks as always.
All right. Thank you.